Hi, everyone. This is Jackie Cooper with CryptoMom2 Talk Show and Jay Cooper Travels, and also Love Travel Scotland. And the reason why I mention all the talk shows is that I have listeners who are around the world who are interested both in travel as well as in blockchain and the current events of the day. So I would like to thank everyone for hopping on as well as subscribing to the various talk shows. Today I have a very special guest on who I met through the GBA association that I am also a talk show host with. And her background is unique and it's inspiring. But before I bring her on to share a little bit more about her background, for those that are new to my talk show, I want to welcome you and share a little bit about who I am. I have been in the blockchain world for about 4 or 5 years now, which is really a newbie in comparison to some of the individuals that I've been speaking to. And my background's law, but I'm also an educator, a special educator, and I'm also a Bitcoin miner and a blockchain enthusiast and consultant, and also a certified cryptocurrency investigator. So I have many tools in my tool belt for looking at the blockchain. But one of the things I must say is that everyone needs to do their own research. These shows are not financial advice, they're not legal advice, and there's a lot of volatility in the cryptocurrency world and the blockchain markets. So like with everything else, you need to speak with your own advisors and do multiple research on a variety of sources. So that way you can make sure that what you are reading is accurate, because as we all know, online, there's a lot of misinformation. And that's one reason why I decided to start this talk show, CryptoMom2, because I wanted to educate and to provide a variety of resources so that way those that are starting out like I did can find out some of the resources that they can trust. So again, I want to hop on over to Dr. Blockchain and welcome you to our conversation today. And for anyone who's on the audio side, please hop over to the YouTube side. So, because we're going to be showing things on screen, and I want to make sure that you also can enjoy the visuals as well. So welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, to get to know you through GBA, and I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to join GBA just lately, and immediately I got in contact with you. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity.
I'm
Yeah.
always excited to speak to women who are involved in the blockchain. So when you and I first had our chat, and I learned more about your background, I felt, it was amazing. Why don't you, I want to do it justice. So why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about how you actually got started in this area? Because just like me, the path has not been straight and narrow. You've done a variety of things, and you're also truly a global citizen. So why don't you go ahead and share a little bit more about your background so everyone can understand the wealth of knowledge that you bring to the table.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. So, yeah, I mean, my background is again non-traditional, unconventional. I started in tech. I went to a high school which was mostly STEM school, all about technology and computer science and engineering and sciences. So I was always very logical, very scientific, but also very creative and innovative. And I mean, think about it, technology is a lot of innovation. You need a lot of creativity if you really want to create something new. So when people think, oh, they're just, like very technical. No, there's a lot of creativity going on there. I mean, you have to start with a spark. So yeah, it's a different type of creativity though, but it's creativity nonetheless. Which explains why I'm also doing other creative things like, making my own clothes, my own jewelry. And people sometimes say, oh, how is that possible? And I said, well, I mean, creativity is creativity. What does it mean? I mean, it could be anything. So this is, an aside. But in any event, so I started, in tech, then went to college, got my introduced to finance and economics, and got really very fascinated about all the economic and the social questions, because economics is, I mean, that's what people do. I mean, they put it in science, but in fact, it is social science. It's not tech science. If you go to the all, universities across the globe, economics is within the social science, school. So, and it, in fact, the philosophers, there's a lot of philosophers like the Marx and the Keynes and all of that, they were philosophers to begin with. It all started with philosophy of some sort, kind of a thought, a school of thought, which is philosophy. And then, you build, all these theories, which then you can put it into numbers. But so I got, because when I was going, to high school and all, it's always all about math and technology and all of that. No one even talked to me about economics or social problems or all of that. I was involved in all kinds of in volunteering, like you do as a teenager, but there was nothing like that. You have like a class that really speaks about that. And that was at least, in my growing up. And I think that it is important. I don't know how it is in the schools elsewhere, but with my school, we didn't have that. And I think it's should be different. In any event, back to, so I got, so now I have these two passions. One is that I'm intrigued by all of these, social, questions, and I want to solve them, because I'm a problem solver. I have to solve something. If I see something, it has to have a solution. And I have my passion for technology and innovation and all that. I'm thinking, okay, how can I put these two together? How can I, apply my skills into finance and economics? So I decided to go for a PhD. I'm not saying that's the only path to do this, but that was my path. And this is how I came to New York City, to New York, to get my PhD at Stern Business School NYU. And this is why I'm now in New York City. So I got my PhD, and it made sense to me at the beginning. I mean, when I was going for my PhD, I haven't heard about blockchain yet. It was, all about finance and technology in general. I did hear about AI and all of that, which I'm also very much involved with. So that was, the type of technologies that I was involved. So I became a quant. Quant is basically data science for finance, and I call it data science for finance because we use the same methodology, the same data even, only the question is different. Instead of business, we have something in finance, but it's all the same. And so I worked with hedge funds and for investing algorithm and all of that. And as I was doing my work on, first I started with equities, and I went to FX, which is foreign currency. I stumbled on crypto. Now, crypto is called cryptocurrency, right? So now, and I worked with FX, which is foreign currency. And it made sense at first, that the brokers back then, today it's a little bit more structured, not too structured, but that offered foreign currency also offers crypto, because by definition of a currency, it traded 24/7 in pairs, it is global. So it kind of made sense. But when I was doing my research and looking into the drivers of crypto, the drivers that applied for foreign currency, which was mostly driven by monetary monetary decision and monetary policy, like the interest rate and inflation and the GDP and all of that, didn't really affect cryptocurrency. Well, that was back then. I'm talking about 8 years ago. Today, they're a little bit more in sync, because this is why when you see, the downturn in market, everything go in sync. It's kind of yes and no, that they are a little bit more in sync today than they used to be. But nonetheless, what happened is that, I figured, okay, so it's kind of, I used to describe it like, well, it looks like a cow, but it doesn't behave like a cow. So what exactly this is? So I decided to really understand what it is, and this is how kind of I like to say that I got to crypto like in the back door. It's not like, I learned Bitcoin and I want to do Bitcoin. It's like got to it was it was unrelated, and then I got very intrigued, and since then I realized all the technology behind it, and I was lit up back to my roots, technology, great. So it's not the currency like the fiat currency that is issued and generated by the central banks, but rather there's some kind of mechanism behind it which is completely different. So how does that work? And I was very, very, very fascinated by it, and I started to learn more about what is blockchain, what it means, and I'm very much involved in this ecosystem. Since then, I've done 24/7, literally, in everything that has to do with blockchain. But not just blockchain. Now it's blockchain, it's Web3, it's AI, it's the metaverse, it's all the other applications of blockchain, from NFTs to the DAO to the DeFi. There's so much going on, and so many technologies that are happening. And I write about it. I look at, since I have, this understanding of the technology as a whole, I also have the business, understanding. When I approach a problem, someone comes to me with a problem, I always say, okay, let's first look at the problem. What is the business problem it's trying to solve? And then think about the solution and think about what tools we can apply. And I write about it, and you can find, all of my articles on my website, that you can see that my approach is that I think, technology is a tool. And like when you build a house and you want to build your house, you don't just take a hammer. Okay, you can use the hammer, it's necessary, but you also need other tools. You may need a screwdriver, and you need a saw, and you need nails, and you need all kinds of other things, to build something. And this is how you have to approach that. Okay, this is what I want to create, and this is the problem. And then I'm thinking of a solution. What tools am I going to use? So and the problem sometimes, which I see with a lot of solutions that I've seen, is that they think about how can I apply blockchain? That's kind of the wrong way of thinking. It's not how you can apply it. It's more about what is the problem? Is it really necessary to use blockchain? Maybe not.
Yeah.
So it could be something else, or maybe it's blockchain with something else, which a lot of the solutions are basically what I call a full system approach, which I'm now in the process of writing a book, which is exactly about that, how to think about emergent technologies, that it is an interdisciplinary approach, that you have to approach it from an interdisciplinary thinking about all kind of school of thought, and all of whether it's from social to ethics to it's not just technology, it's a lot of things that goes into play here, because at the end of the day, yes, technology, we're saying about just GDP that it's going, people are talking about singularity. Are we at the approach of singularity, meaning that the technology is now going to rule and become kind of replace us? We're not there yet. It's not there yet. Still we are creating this technology. It's still, even ChatGPT, it's a creation of us, because it is generated by data that we have created. It is generated by the questions that the input that we're going to put in there and ask. So it's still, there's us to be there. I know people are talking about it's going to come to a place where they're gonna, this AI, this generative AI, which people even think about general AI. I'm gonna not go into there yet, but it's like the system is, you're going to create their own solutions automatically on their own, kind of like there's no human, but we're not there yet. It's still generated very much by data that we create. So there's lots of human input here. And we mustn't forget that. So all the questions of the social questions that we are dealing with in our today's life, in the even before we had this technology, and all the ethical questions are still there. And we have to address them when we are approaching this technology. Technology is not going to fix it if we are not thinking ahead of time of how to apply it. And this is another issue that I write a lot about: ethics and technology and diversity and all the, humanity and all of that, that we have to think about. If we want, technology can do a lot of good, but it's up to us to make sure it's going to do good.
I agree with you. I also agree with you in terms of what you say in terms of the multidisciplinary aspect of it. I know that many years ago when I was attending college, my major was science, technology, and society. So, again, blockchain to me felt like I was coming home because of the application of it in terms of both the technology side as well as the use side. But just as you were talking about, and when I was way back when, I was always looking at the ethics side, whether it was the bioethics side or, whatever the philosophy is, because like you said, it's not the creation, it's the use of. And we as humans have the ability to make a decision. Are we applying it for the overall good, or are we applying it for individual personal gain? What are we applying it for, and how is that going to impact others? For those that are listening to the audio, I have the website up right now, and there's many things here that you can explore, from the about side to the media side to resources to the blog and the services. So, this is something that I definitely will also embed within our conversation, so that way everyone can visit. And I also want to suggest to everyone, we are going to go over to one of the resources and one of the current articles that you've written, but we're both going to be doing live streams and other conversations, throughout the year, and starting soon on a more consistent basis. We're just looking at what our schedules are. So it is important for you to hop over to both the website as well as to the YouTube, so that way you can subscribe to both and keep up with both the various new articles that are posted, as well as the various conversations that we have, because I know you and I were talking offline. Current events are just spiraling, from the recent banks that both in the blockchain space to the traditional finance space. There's a lot of questions going on about liquidity behind the banks and what have they done. And then you brought to my attention about Binance, I believe it was.
Yep.
That they were being sued. What are they being sued for?
They have been sued for, I think, fraudulent, transactions. I mean, but Binance, to be honest with you, I've been very weary about them for a long, long, long time. They've been sued, I mean, by the department, the finance department, Department of New York State, and in fact, New York State kicked them out of the jurisdiction. So I mean, me as a a resident of New York, I can't even touch Binance if I think about
So
it.
for those that are listening, and for those that might be new, there are different ways that you can buy cryptocurrency. And there are different wallets that you can have, both online as well as cold wallets. There's a whole, different things that you can think about. But if you are going to purchase cryptocurrency on a platform, some platforms are restricted in the United States and some platforms are not, based upon, maybe the state that you're in, like you're mentioning, or the overall laws of the country, so there might be some platforms that you don't even have access to. But Binance, I know that has a Binance.us, which is and then Binance, which is outside of the US.
Yes.
So, so those that are looking at, again, this is why it's important for you to do your research at the various platforms. You need to find out one, you know, where are they located, and then the other thing is, you have to think about what coins, if you decide that you are going to invest in any of these coins, what coins can you, and if you're in the United States, there are some coins that are even restricted because of various lawsuits that are going on. So, you know, when, you know, like, one that comes to mind is Ripple.
Yeah.
Again, so it's not always clear sometimes what's going on. And the reason why I bring that up is, if you obtain a coin and you leave it on a cryptocurrency coin, and you leave it on a platform, and then that platform closes or restricts access to you for your coin, and you have not moved it to a cold wallet, then you don't have access to your coins at all, and you will have lost your investment. So, if you end up going to a platform, then you really should do some research to think about should you move that coin to where you self-custody it, where you actually own it, meaning control it. Otherwise, if you're leaving it on the platform, they actually have more control over it. So, I don't know if you want to kind of share some of your thoughts about that.
Yeah, this is interesting that you mentioned that, you know, that's what, you know, when people are talking about, oh, you know, crypto can be hacked, crypto can be hacked. Then I said, okay, so let's hold for a second. Let's understand where this hacking really happens. The blockchain itself cannot be hacked. It's immutable. It cannot be hacked. What can be hacked is what I call off-chain, not on-chain. On-chain is meaning on the blockchain. And there's off-chain, which is what Jackie was just mentioning, which relates to the hot wallets. Now, what do I mean by that? If you create a wallet, like an account that you have in your bank, and you create, or a brokerage account, and you have your account with any centralized, again, not decentralized, and that's a different, you know, discussion. Maybe we will have it one day. What is the difference between decentralized and centralized exchanges?
Yeah.
But for now, if you're thinking about the ones that you probably hear on the news, like Coinbase and Gemini and Kraken, all of those are basically, or the FTX, which is the debacle that happened. This has nothing to do with blockchain. These are centralized exchanges, like any centralized exchange that you think of, whether it's NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange or the London Stock Exchange. But the difference, and it's a big difference, that the London Stock Exchange, the New York Stock Exchange, and all of those are regulated.
Yes.
So you are protected. So it cannot be that suddenly they lost your money and poof, you know, you don't have it. That will not happen.
But even so, there's been discussions. Regulation only protects you to a certain amount, because they, with all the banks that have been failing.
No, but banking and exchanges are two different regulations
True,
altogether.
true.
So, but if you trade and you have an account, that cannot go poof. What happens with the bank, I can talk about that, is Silicon Valley Bank, if you like, later. But you know, but let's put this in perspective. Now, with centralized exchanges, now since you have a hot wallet, meaning an account that is on their platform, not on your own drive or on the blockchain, then that, even if you have to read the fine line, if you read the fine line, you will see that when you're signing it and say yes, yes, yes. I know a lot of people don't read the fine print. They just, you know, go yes, 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 yes. You know, they do it on their app on the phone, and they go like click, 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 yes, 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 and don't even know what they clicking yes for. And the yes for is that you're giving them permission to access all your funds, and basically this is they own it, not you. So, and in fact, if you read, you know, when Coinbase did their SPAC, if you remember, they in fact had to reveal this issue. But I don't know if people even read that.
Probably
Even,
not. Probably
Yeah.
not. Yeah,
But that's a big issue that, that this money doesn't belong to you, it belongs to them, in fact. Now, going to the hacks. So hack, why is that hack? Because now it's like any organization, and whether it can be hackable or not depends on their own cybersecurity. So you are dependent on the cybersecurity, like you are dependent on the cybersecurity of your insurance company or of your um, medical records or or AWS. AWS also was hacked, the cloud, if you remember that story. So it depends on that organization where you leave your data, your money, your whatever you want to call it. Basically it's all data, all information with those organizations. So you are dependent on their cybersecurity. If they have a good cybersecurity, you're okay. If they don't, you get all this hacking. But it has nothing to do with the blockchain, none whatsoever. Nothing, nothing at all. And and this is why we hear, about these hacks that happens on crypto exchanges, which you have to remember, these are centralized exchanges, not decentralized. And we can talk about that some other time. Now, and another point to your point with whether who owns it, if you remember the debacle of Celsius also have in their fine print that basically what if you're not the funds that you deposit with them are not yours, they own it, and people just don't read it. And in fact, I even went to the smart contract, the smart contract of the creation of the token, the Celsius token, has a feature. If you know some technology, I don't want to go into this. It's basically a code. Okay.
yes,
So one of the features in the code basically has a freeze. And what does it freeze does is that the smart contract, meaning and whoever owns the smart contract, which is Celsius, can freeze at any time any transfer of the funds. So they can prevent you from moving any of these tokens out
exactly.
of that. So there are all kinds of new things, that if you know technology, you can really understand it better. And also a little bit of law if you want to read a contract, because it's all about contract, basically. But people just don't bother, unfortunately, to do it. And they get, I don't want, hurt by these applications, and then these applications will tell you, oh, but it's all in the fine print, or it's all in this and this. It was your responsibility to read it, but no one reads it. No one does.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your bringing all this up, and we're definitely, these are the type of conversations for everyone who's listening that we're going to be having, as we continue forward with our various shows. I do want to highlight and just kind of pull up your article about AI, because I know that that was one of your recent articles that you just posted, and it is important to go to, this article. Let me see here if you can see it. There we go. So why did you decide to write this article? You just posted it. Why did you think this was important to talk about?
Well, first of all, AI and generative AI and ChatGPT is all over the news. Everyone is talking about it, for the past, since, they launched it in November, no one stops talking about it. I also wrote an article on, I don't know if you're watching John Oliver's show, talk show. So he also did a show on AI, and there's another article that you can find here, which is basically my response to whatever he was talking about in his show. So everyone's talking about that, from the talk show, from the media, and everyone, talking about AI and AI and AI. So AI and the metaverse is very, very hot topic. But my job is trying to put things in the right perspective, to address issues that no one wants to talk about. They all talk about the hype. Oh, use that, do that, try this and do this and all the great stuff, the people that you can do with that. And no one, take a minute or two to think about all the problems that can come from using these technologies, the ethical problems, the biases, the diversity, and all these issues. And I think that I'm here to explain what this technology can or cannot do and how it is in our hands to do it. And there was the article that and that's what I do, the article that I write about, which I talked about my response to John Oliver, which he was mentioning about all the biases and everything. And then I explained why we have these biases, why it is basically, I always like to say that he was saying that AI is smart or dumb, and he said no, it's very dumb. And it's dumb in ways, it said something I'm paraphrasing right now, in dumb in ways that we can't even imagine. But I like to say, and this is why I'm bringing, my expertise here, is that basically, remember, the AI, this algorithm, it's an algorithm. The algorithm was coded by you. The data was gathered by humans, yes, machine, but we have decided which data we're going to use for our algorithm. It was trained by all kinds of methodologies that human decided. So it's very much, we want to say, oh, it is automatic. It's not automatic. Yes, when you push the button and you say something, then it is the algorithm, does what it has to do. But in order to create this algorithm, there's still human intervention here. Human creates that. So I like to say that the algorithm, AI, is as smart as the person or persons who coded it and the data that it was trained on. So this is how you have to think about it.
Yeah.
So if you have problems and all kinds of biases with this algorithm, then you have to turn to those people who have created it. They should be accountable. And they cannot say, oh, it's the algorithm. Well, it's not like was, God gift, came to earth, and then we have an algorithm. There's human interaction. This is how we always have to think about it. And that's what I write about a lot. And I want people to be mindful of when we are creating the metaverse and creating all this AI. We all like to think about the beautiful things that it can create, but it can also do a lot of damage if you don't do it right. So when now, for example, there was the article with AI and the metaverse. I wrote it because it was about beginning of this month, there was a headline, Tribune had a headline that Mark Zuckerberg buried the metaverse. And so I wanted to understand what, I don't think so, but, but it was based on some kind, of a post that Zuckerberg posted, which was saying, that he's now going to create a team, especially, going to focus on AI, generative AI. He didn't say anything about they're going to stop, working on the metaverse, but that was their interpretation. I guess it was a sensation for them to create headlines. But if you know exactly how things are working, then you can understand that Zuckerberg and all other tech people, they know that if they command AI, that will lead them to command the metaverse and everything else that we have in life.
Interesting. That's
because
a whole nother conversation for us.
Yes.
A whole nother conversation. I am very excited about the future conversations that we're going to have, because there's a lot of philosophy tied to it. And while you were talking, and I know that we were chatting about doing the live streams, I also know that there are different guests that we might invite on to have conversations with us as we kind of continue the different topics. So if you're listening and if you think that you want to join the conversations with us, definitely reach out to my email, CryptoMom2 Consulting at gmail.com, because we would love to involve you in these ongoing conversations about current events and things like that. I will definitely embed your website so that way people can look at the resources, because you're an avid writer and you're constantly commenting on different current events. So it's very important for, individuals who might not have the same knowledge that you have to kind of to read and digest what it is that you're sharing. Any last minute thoughts that you want to share with everyone before we sign off? Because I know that this is an ongoing conversation we're going to have.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about because there's a lot of going on. I mean, I like to say, that we are living in an era of that life is changing as we live it.
Yes.
And because this technology is changing and evolving, I call it evolving exponentially, and this is very, very exciting. So I'm very excited with that. I also would like to mention that I also do some consulting, like Jackie, different type of consulting, but still in this area. And you can, ask me, approach me for anything. But I'm very, very super excited about this time that we are living, and being part of it and making an impact. That's very exciting for me.
Yeah, I agree. And we both are advocates for mentoring other women that would like to get involved in the blockchain and to learn more about that. And so for everyone who's listening, thank you so much. Definitely subscribe to my channels as well as to Dr. Blockchain's channels. And again, all of our contact information will be in the blog below, so that way you can email both of us or reach out. And as I've always said, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. We're all so interconnected and we're all part of one world. And thank you so much and have a great day. And I'll talk to you soon.
Have a wonderful day.